You've reached Conversation with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla. Thank you for listening. Let's get right to the episode. Welcome to another edition of Conversations with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla. So for this edition, I have Dr. Rupert Tomada as my guest. Thank you, Dr. Tomada, for being here.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
So, Dr. Tomada, I was wondering, can you explain a little bit about your background? How did you get into the medical profession, and what schooling did you have to go through?
All right. I am born and raised in the Philippines, and I started my academic schooling year in the Philippines. So I finished elementary, high school, college, and up to medical school there. I finished medical school in 2004, and then I got married. My wife is also a doctor. She was a classmate of mine on my medical school. She was already looking at moving to the United States. And when we got married, I loved her, so we decided, okay, let's move. It took 2 years for us to prepare to go here and resume training. So I did residency in Akron, Ohio, 3 years there. And then we went back to Washington, and I started practice here since 2010.
Okay. So, Dr. Tomada, just want to know, what is your current position and what do you do?
So I am an internist by internal medicine by training, but nowadays they call us hospitalists since I only work in the hospital. I see patients there. If a patient gets admitted, needs an admission, needs hospital care, we take care of them until they get discharged from the hospital. And I am also they call me the chief of my team. They just relabeled my title. It's Associate Medical Director for the Kaiser Permanente Hospitalist team. So under my team, we're growing. We're now 13 physicians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're also a boss?
Facilitator,
okay.
I should say. Facilitator, okay. Since I think all doctors are leaders by nature. So I just try to vector them to the right direction
okay.
and facilitate that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What made you want to get into the medical field?
I've been thinking about that question. There's really no one point in my life that I decided I'm going to do this. My dad, he kept on challenging me when I was young, and then he kept on telling me, he had 4 cousins who were a doctor. And then I had a neighbor who wanted to become a doctor. He was a close friend of mine, and I think that contributed to it. And I think it was in second year high school that I decided I'm going to be a doctor, and that's what I told my dad. Because, of course, medical school takes a lot of money for studying of that. So I gave my parents some preparation. But it's really a process that made me decide to be a doctor.
Well, financially, was it hard to get through, or did you get through scholarships, or how did you get through the medical school financially?
Good question. So I come from a not wealthy family, so I was lucky that I was able to study college in a state university. And then I got in also to a medical school that is sponsored by the country. So it's a subsidized tuition. So I was only paying about 20% of the usual cost of medical school in the Philippines because it was subsidized by the government.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how does a typical day of a doctor look like, especially for your profession, what you do?
As I said, I work as a hospitalist, and of course, different subspecialties have different schedule in their work. So, but my job is I work at the hospital, Best way to understand it is it's a shift work. So my shift starts at 7 a.m. I take what we call sign out from the night doctor regarding updates of the patients I'm going to see for that day. And as soon as I get that sign out, I just start seeing patients 7 o'clock in the morning. Hospital care, it's really a team effort. So there are times in my day that I have to pause on seeing patients, talk to other hospital staff like social workers, case managers, the nurses, so that I can be the leader of caring for the patients that I see. I try to finish my seeing of patients, my rounding, until noon, so that I devote the afternoon on family meetings if I need to do family conferences. And I do a cycling of doing admissions. So if I am the admitter for a day, so anytime that there is a patient in the emergency department or in an outpatient facility or urgent care that needs to be hospitalized, they'll call me, and then I'll wait for them and do the admission. So I start at 7 a.m. I end up 7 p.m. And the good thing about my work, I can turn off my cell phone and my pager after 7 p.m. And like any other shift work, another doctor picks up that responsibility.
Okay. So now you've been a doctor for a number of years, more than 10. And so what I'm curious about is, what are the differences you've noticed now, the trends now, compared to back then when you first started?
Wow. Okay, that's a big question. I'll try to unpack it little by little. So we are now in this what we call a post-COVID era, and I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now, which is the new norm, at least in my opinion, is just the volume of patients that are needing hospital care. You can imagine the medical care that was postponed during the COVID era. People are not seeing their doctors during that time period, so they've missed a lot. And now we're just, unwrapping the complications of that, of people not seeing their medical providers. So just the volume. And also I'm seeing more elderly patients in the hospital. And nowadays, the hospital's been full. So we're also trying to manage the limited resources that we have in the hospital so that we can efficiently take care of the patients who really need to be in the hospital. This was not like this pre-COVID. Another thing also, maybe because I'm getting more seasoned into this, you start accepting the fact that, caring for patients is not a one-man or a one-doctor responsibility. It's really a team effort. So I think just trying to get your partners of care, of providers who will be able to take care of the patient while they're in the hospital, and then once they're out of the hospital, just to make sure that they're on the same page and how to move forward on treating patients. So those are the biggest things: the volume, managing limited resources that we have, and of course trying to also prevent burnout, because that's a big thing for all professions in the medical field, because of the volume of work that is out there. It's easy to get burnout, so we also have to take care of ourselves. So that takes an effort too. So that's a big change compared to pre-COVID, which is before 2020. Yeah.
I'd imagine self-care is very important, taking care of yourself. So one thing I was going to check with you is also, what can you share some stories of some of the toughest challenges you've had aside from the COVID, aside from what you've mentioned? What are some of the toughest challenges you've encountered through all years of a doctor, and maybe some of your greatest success stories?
Wow, a lot of challenges. Okay, well, maybe I'll give you an example. We're talking about limited resources that we have right now. I mean, I just had a patient who was very sick, and he ended up getting admitted in the hospital, and then we had to do work with him, care for him in the hospital. And at the end of it, he needed to have, for this patient, dialysis. And so, sad to say, the dialysis units that we have here in our county, they're kind of limited. So we had to wait for one to open.
Can you explain to our listeners who may not know what dialysis is?
Yes, so dialysis is an intervention wherein when your kidneys start failing. So the kidneys, a good explanation of it, one of the functions of it filters toxins in the body. And if your kidneys are not filtering well or they're failing on that function, then the dialysis machine takes over and filter those toxins. So that's one function of it. Kidneys also maintain homeostasis of volume. So it makes sure that you're not volume overloaded or you're not dehydrated by controlling the amount of urine you're doing. So if you lose that function, so the dialysis helps on taking off fluid from your body so that you don't get fluid overloaded. Does that
Yes.
Is that a good answer?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, for what advice would you give a student, whether it's a high school student or a college student, if they want to join the medical profession and they want to become a doctor or nurse? What piece of advice would you give the students?
Piece of advice: if your heart is into it, stay on the course. It takes a lot of commitment really to go into the medical field, not just a doctor. If you want to go to a nurse, physical therapist, occupational therapist, the time that you need to invest on studying, the sacrifices that you have to do to get to that profession, it takes a lot. So stay on the course. Medical field in general, you never stop learning. There's always something new out there, and at my practice, I have to keep up with the information so that I can provide the best care. So medical profession, it's a never-ending learning. It's really a marathon, not a sprint, and it is a fulfilling profession because you are meeting people when they are in need, and you're able to make that connection with that person. It's a privilege to be in that kind of relationship, and there's fulfillment in that. So stay on the course. It's a marathon. There will be a lot of ups and downs, but always look at your objective. And it's really about helping people. It's really fulfilling that at the end of the day, even though I am not able to cure a lot of diseases, I'm still able to help and care. And it's a fulfilling job. And if I'm tired at the end of the day because of doing that, it makes me feel better.
One thing you mentioned is the end of the day, and I was going to ask you challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered balancing your professional life and personal life as far as time management and energy that you put in?
There's a lot of effort that I put into that. The good thing about hospitalist work is we do shift work. So we start working 7 a.m., then when 7 p.m. Comes, we're able to turn off our pager and, of course, focus our time and my time with my family. That's a big part of my day. I don't want to check out with my kids. I have 3 beautiful kids. And we also work in this frame of 7 days working, then 7 days off. So that's really the sweet deal of being a hospitalist. Others don't like that. They want to. We don't have holidays though. We don't have holidays. We work through holidays. It's just part of our schedule. But having that 7 days off after a 7-day week stretch of working is a sweet deal. So I'm able to catch up with my mental health, my physical health, my emotional recharge and all. So yeah, a lot of effort, and I have to make sure that I have things planned out, because it's easy just to lounge at home and not do anything. So just simple things of being a dad, and doing house chores, simple things, because those small things, they go a long way.
Could you tell me a story about a patient that's touched your heart, and maybe tell me about a patient that maybe a story about a patient that changed maybe your practice?
Oh man, that's a tough question. A story that changed my heart. I can think of. I recently had a patient, and this patient apparently was developing dementia. So dementia is it's a disease wherein a person loses cognitive function to a point that they can't function by themselves. They needed help. They needed assistance, and it turns out the family members were really kind of surprised how severe the dementia of this patient that I'm caring for, and I had to sit down and talk to the family and gave them what's going on. This is what's happening right now, and explain to them the disease progression, and answer their question as honest as I can, and then moving forward, how are we going to care for our for my patient, for their relative, although this is like one of the run of the mill of my job, talking to family and talking about disease. But what's interesting about this case is after the family meeting that I've had, one of the relative came up to me and really thanked me, because they understand that as us doctors, we're so busy. We see a lot of patients. There's always something going on, and I got an acknowledgement that a thanking of me just sitting down and talking to them, devoting time to them, and I mean that reminds me that it's not the disease I'm really caring for. These are people. You have to devote time. You have to talk to relatives. You have to talk to family members, caregivers, because once patients are in the hospital, they're in crisis mode. Mm-hmm. There's something going on, and I can change that vector if I give them suggestions on what to do next. That's just, for me, it reminds me that I have to really take time on the patients that I see, because these are people. So that's something that I always try to do, and that was a humbling experience also, that okay, I have to pause because I have to do this family meeting.
Makes sense. So in general, I was going to ask, what makes you feel inspired or like your best self? What inspires you that kind of makes you your best?
I didn't mention to you that in part of my background, I'm a Christian. And I was really trying to look for a purpose about why did God put me into this position. And it was only about 10 years ago that I finally realized that I'm on this work because there's the purpose is He's using me as an instrument to spread His word, and that's what I do every morning before seeing my first patient. I pray to my Creator that He uses me as an instrument to do His will, and having my work at that lens, that inspires me to do well, to be the best that I can be on my role, and I've already started asking patients if I can pray for them. So if I'm able to do that and pray for patients that I see in the hospital, that's something that motivates me. Another thing is my family. As like what I told you, I have three kids. I am teaching them by modeling. My eldest, who's now having this interest in going to the medical field, she's now visiting me in the hospital just to see how I work. It's amazing how modeling to our kids, how that teaches them, you know, and yeah, that motivates me to do better because somebody's looking, you know, quietly looking. So yeah, my family and my God.
Awesome. Okay, just a few more questions.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him now?
I would tell my 18-year-old self that slow down, slow down, and cherish every moment of what you're seeing, because you pick up small pieces of learning on everything that you do, and it's only that I'm a seasoned provider in my profession that, you know, looking back, oh yeah, I learned this when I was in 20. I learned this, you know, because I had that experience. So I think I tell myself, my 18-year-old self, you know, slow down and always look at the silver lining of things. I had a lot of ups and downs, and it's only now that I'm looking back, oh, I've done this before. I don't want to do this error again. So yeah, one is slow down. Number two is pray a lot. The power of prayer is there. So I'd tell myself you should pray more. If you think you've done enough, pray more. And the third is just the trusting that there's a sovereign God who has a plan for you. And you just have to trust that. Pray about it and slow down. That's what I tell myself.
Awesome. Okay, so with the interview, the final portion what I do, this is a little bit of fun. It's called word association. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share. I'll share about maybe 1, 2, 3 words, and you can just tell me the first thing that comes into mind. Now, this is a running joke that I've had with students at Chimicum when I was there. Is everyone knows that I really, really dislike pickles. And so that was so the first word I'm gonna go with is pickles. Your first word or thought?
Oh man, pickles, heart failure. So pickles have high salt, and if you have a heart failure, you should limit your salt intake. Don't eat pickles.
Yeah. You hear that, folks? Pickles are bad. I told you they're bad. They're bad. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, how about family?
Family. Oh man, a blessing. Yeah, I think family is a blessing. Not everyone is able to have family. So I'm just blessed that God gave me a loving wife, beautiful wife, and I have 3 kids that I'm mentoring at home, and I just can't imagine myself not living without them.
Yeah. Your faith.
My faith, one word.
Anything comes to mind.
Amen.
One word. Anything comes to mind.
Hope.
Okay.
I think hope. Yeah, hope that whatever what's going on right now, things might be more negative than before. That there is hope that things are gonna get better. It's written in the Bible that things are gonna get better because Jesus is gonna come, and when He comes back, He'll make things right.
Okay. Good. Okay. How about Grey's Anatomy?
Drama. Whatever you see there, some of it is true, but it's really all drama. It's all entertainment.
Okay. How about horror slasher movies?
This is Friday movie night with my wife.
Oh, okay.
When the kids are, sleeping, and then we wanted to watch something that is for appropriate for us, then yeah, that's an option.
Okay, all right. UFC, MMA?
Childhood. Back in the Philippines, every Wednesday, there's this WWF. They only show it like 11 p.m., so you really have to stay up late. And I'm only able to watch that during summer.
Okay.
Because, of course, it's a school day. You have to be at bed by 9 or 10. Yeah, childhood summer.
Awesome. By the way, that's WWF Pro Wrestling. It's real, folks. It's real. Okay, how about Buffalo Wild Wings?
Spicy. I like it spicy.
Okay. Nintendo.
Pastime. I remember my mom brought this a new Nintendo. It was. I think my first game was the Load Runner, and we only had black and white TV for that. Oh man, we'd spend like hours playing that game. I miss those days.
Okay. Rap music.
Poetry.
Okay.
I think for a talent like that who's able to do rap, put lyrics, put rhythm on it, put rhyme, and make sense out of it, it's a skill set that I do not have.
Okay, all right. Country music.
Guitar. I'm thinking of Telecaster. I'm a guitar player, so that's one of my pastime. I noodle in my guitar. So yeah, guitar.
Okay. Bad hygiene.
Bad hygiene. Cavities. If you don't brush your teeth, you're gonna develop.
Okay, all right. Cologne.
No, I can't wear cologne. I can't wear any perfume going to work. There are some patients who are very sensitive to that. So no to cologne, no to perfume.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so last question. Do you have any final words or final things you'd like to tell our listeners for this episode?
Yes, and I'm assuming that these are for your students and for others who are planning their career. You're going to have a fulfilling career if you have passion for it. And I think that's the hardest part. Where's your passion? Where's your heart? Once you found it, stay on the course. You'll have to do a lot of work. But remind you, if it's your passion, there's going to be fulfillment at the end of it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Tomada. Truly appreciate it. And that concludes this edition of Conversations with Mr. A, featuring Dr. Rupert Tomada. So, Dr. Tomada is a doctor for Kaiser Permanente in Silverdale, Kitsap County, Silverdale, Washington. Great reputation, great man, someone you can definitely trust. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for future episodes of Conversations with Mr. A. We'll see you then.